Detroit People Mover. Detroit spent $200 million building a train that goes in a circle. The People Mover opened in 1987 as a 2.9-mile loop around downtown, connecting absolutely nothing to nowhere. The system was designed to complement a broader transit network that was never built. Now it's just a lonely elevated track carrying tourists on a 3-stop journey to disappointment. Daily ridership averages 2,500 people, which means each rider costs taxpayers about $12 per trip in operating subsidies. The stations look like 1980s sci-fi movie sets, complete with dated tilework and fluorescent lighting. The loop takes 15 minutes to complete, but you can walk the same distance in 12 minutes. Detroit's population declined by 25% after the system opened, leaving the People Mover circling an increasingly empty downtown. The project promised to revitalize the city center, but instead became a monument to failed transit planning. Local residents call it the tourist trap on rails because the only people who ride it are visitors taking photos. The system doesn't connect to the airport, major residential areas, or employment centers. It just circles. Miami Metrorail. Miami's Metrorail is proof that building transit without considering how people actually move is an expensive failure. The system opened in 1984 with 21 miles of track serving 2 lines. Cost per mile? $127 million in today's dollars, making it one of the most expensive rail projects in American history. The problem isn't the trains, it's where they go. The Orange Line runs north-south through areas with relatively low density, missing Miami Beach entirely. That's right. Miami built a beach resort rail system that doesn't go to the beach. Daily ridership hovers around 65,000, far below the 200,000 projected when construction began. The system loses $100 million annually in operating costs. Stations sit in the middle of highways, requiring pedestrians to navigate hostile infrastructure just to board. The Dadeland South Station is surrounded by 6 lanes of traffic and massive parking lots. Park and ride became the only viable access method, defeating the entire purpose of mass transit. Extensions are perpetually planned but rarely funded, leaving neighborhoods waiting decades for promised connections. Los Angeles Metro. Los Angeles finally admitted cars might not solve everything, then proved it doesn't know how to build alternatives. The metro system spans 109 miles across 6 lines. Sounds impressive until you realize LA County covers 4,753 square miles. That's 2% coverage for a metro area of 13 million people. The Purple Line extension took 30 years and $9 billion to add 9 miles of track. That's $1 billion per mile, making it the most expensive subway in American history. Construction costs spiral because every inch of land has something buried underneath: oil pipes, water mains, forgotten infrastructure from 8 decades of car-centric development. The system averages 300,000 daily riders in a region where 10 million people commute daily. Most lines run through industrial areas or highway medians, avoiding dense residential neighborhoods where people actually live. The Expo line to Santa Monica took 25 years to build and cost $2.4 billion. Riders spend more time waiting for trains than they would sitting in traffic. Frequency peaks at 12 minutes during rush hour, while New York trains arrive every 3 minutes. Sydney Metro. Sydney looked at successful metro systems worldwide and said, "Let's do the expensive version." The Northwest Metro opened in 2019 after cost overruns pushed the budget from 8.3 billion Australian dollars to 11.5 billion Australian dollars. The government promised automated trains, modern stations, and seamless integration. They delivered 2 of 3. The driverless trains work beautifully when they're not breaking down, which happens frequently enough that commuters have backup transportation plans. The system serves Sydney's Northwest Corridor, an area developed specifically to justify the Metro line. That's backwards planning, building suburbs to fill trains rather than trains to serve existing communities. Integration with the legacy rail network is comically bad. Passengers transfer between systems by walking through shopping malls and across streets. The original plan included a second harbor crossing and city loop, but those sections remain unfunded after ballooning costs scared politicians. Sydney now has an orphaned metro segment disconnected from where most people need to go. Weekend service shuts down regularly for maintenance, turning the modern system into an unreliable option compared to buses. Toronto, Eglinton, Crosstown. Toronto's Eglinton Crosstown became the cautionary tale of light rail done wrong. Originally budgeted at 5.3 billion Canadian dollars with a 2021 opening, the project now costs 12.8 billion and still isn't finished. The line runs 19 kilometers across Toronto's midtown, connecting neighborhoods that desperately need better transit. Except construction has been going on since 2011, destroying businesses and disrupting communities for over a decade. The underground section uses tunnel boring machines that repeatedly broke down, flooded, and got stuck in unexpected geological formations. Contractors blamed each other while the city watched costs double. The original plan was entirely underground, then got changed to partially above ground to save money, which actually made coordination more complex and expensive. Stations near intersections create traffic conflicts that negate any speed advantages. The project's delays became so legendary that Eglinton construction is now Toronto slang for any project running impossibly over schedule. Local businesses have shuttered after years of blocked access and construction chaos. Seattle Center Monorail. Seattle's monorail is a 1962 World's Fair relic that does one thing: connects downtown to Seattle Center, exactly 1.2 miles. The city spent decades trying to expand this novelty into a real transit system, failing spectacularly every time. In 2005, voters approved a 14-mile expansion costing $11 billion. Then someone actually calculated the financing plan and realized it required 50 years of property taxes, making it the most expensive mile-per-mile transit project in history. The plan collapsed under its own fiscal absurdity. The existing monorail carries 2 million riders annually. Sounds impressive until you realize they're mostly tourists visiting the Space Needle. Locals use it only when absolutely necessary, because it doesn't go anywhere useful. The monorail uses proprietary technology from the 1960s, meaning replacement parts must be custom manufactured. Operating costs exceed $6 million yearly for maintaining vintage equipment. The expansion failure taught Seattle an expensive lesson about realistic transit planning, though subsequent projects suggest the lesson wasn't learned. The monorail remains a tourist attraction pretending to be transportation infrastructure. San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco has 3 separate transit agencies that barely talk to each other: BART, Muni, and Caltrain. This fragmentation creates a system where getting from Oakland to San Jose requires navigating multiple fare systems, schedules, and service philosophies. BART opened in 1972, designed for suburban commuters, with stations spaced miles apart and surrounded by parking lots. The system uses proprietary trains running on non-standard gauge tracks, preventing interconnection with any other rail system. Current ridership is 40% below pre-2020 levels, as remote work gutted the commuter model BART was built around. The Transbay Tube connecting San Francisco to Oakland is the system's critical failure point. Any incident shuts down the entire network. Extensions to suburban areas cost billions, while urban neighborhoods like Richmond and western San Francisco lack adequate service. Muni operates over 80 bus lines and 7 light rail lines, all suffering from chronic delays, mechanical failures, and funding shortfalls. Integration between systems is terrible. Payment methods aren't fully unified, and physical transfers often require leaving one station and walking blocks to another. Regional planning doesn't exist because agencies compete for funding rather than coordinate service. UK high speed. Britain looked at European high-speed rail and said, "We can do that for triple the price." HS2 started as a £32 billion project connecting London to Manchester. Current estimates? £106 billion, and the Manchester section has been cancelled. That's right. They're spending record amounts to build less than originally planned. The project promised 250-mile-per-hour trains, cutting journey times between cities. Instead, it became a masterclass in scope creep, political interference, and cost escalation. Environmental reviews delayed construction for years while costs mounted. The route was revised 17 times to avoid rich neighborhoods and historic estates, adding distance and expense while reducing efficiency. Phase 1 to Birmingham won't open until 2033 at the earliest, making it a 23-year construction timeline for 140 miles of track. That's 6 miles per year, slower than Victorian railway builders working with steam shovels. Ancient woodlands were destroyed despite promises of environmental sensitivity, angering conservationists and the public. The business case assumed office workers would commute to London forever, an assumption proven catastrophic by remote work trends. The cancellation of the Manchester leg strands Birmingham as an endpoint, creating a high-speed line to nowhere particularly useful. Which failed transit project does your city have? And if you want more deep dives like this, hit like and subscribe.